Hey, Planeswalkers, hope you're doing well. Happy Friday. Welcome to our weekly series here, Friday Night Meta, my friends, with yours truly, MetaMaster Mythras. Excited to bring you the lowdown, the latest and greatest here right out of the gate with our new October season. We got a lot going on. I apologize. When I was going to make this last night, the information was not quite there yet. We are there and off to a fast-paced start, and we got a lot to talk about here today. So appreciate you tuning in. Flip me that like if you enjoyed today's video. Other great ways to stay connected with all things on the channel in the description. If you got questions, if you got comments, let me know down below, or feel free to pop into the description down below as well, where you can find our Discord server with a lot of helpful folks. And last but not least, the timestamps, where we'll break things down for you here today in standard best of 1, best of 3. We'll cover our historic best of 1 and best of 3, and we'll break down historic Brawl and see where things are here today as well, my friends. So certainly excited to cover off on what we got going on here with the new meta. Additionally, with our lovely Innistrad Midnight Hunt, we're starting to get some new information coming out with some decks. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. So again, appreciate you tuning in. Great way to support the channel. As always, appreciate the patrons, appreciate the YouTube members, and a lot of great things here going on for you as well. So, all right, here's what we got going on. Fast and furious. We're into our second week of our lovely new full week of our lovely new set, like we said, on Arena here for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. We got a lot of interesting information. So quickly, just to kind of round off, this is where we were at. As we're jumping into the new week, we're starting to see a lot of that similar pathing here in terms of those decks. And as we break it down at an aggregate level, certainly this is what we have going on here. Mono green Stompy at the top, mono white aggro, mono black control starting to pop up a little bit more. We got Azor's control, Gruul, Werewolf, Simic Ramp, Izzet Dragons, Dimmer Control. And then when you look at the popularity, you can see that mono white aggro doing a ton of work there. Certainly it was a little bit higher previously, almost at 20%, so it did drop a little bit. And as we get out of the gate, we continue to see those aggro decks always moving fast. So that's a big piece to remember as we move out of the gate here. So in aggregate totality, that's what we're looking at. That's what we're seeing in the win rates. We kind of see that steady eddy going across as things are kind of getting sorted out here. Now, as we move into that more competitive clip, here's what we got going on at Platinum. We're not going to have anything past this yet, and I can show you that here quickly, because unless you guys are all Zoomers, we're not going to have any of that information. But certainly in Platinum is going to be key for you as you're navigating here and taking on the meta. So certainly very close to what we had previously as well. A little bit of adjustment in the win rates, but that is what's going to happen there, friends. So that is what we have going on. I'm not going to drill into everything in detail here today, because we just need a little bit more information, but we'll continue to pace, and we'll take a look at what's going on. So very, very similar in terms of what we have. So let's blow these things back out. We're going to pop over now to best of 3. So here's what we got going on in aggregate best of 3. Again, a lot of this stuff doesn't happen on best of 3 in the lower tiers. Generally, it gets picked up at gold and moving forward. So similar style here. We got mono green Stompy, mono white aggro, Izzet Dragons doing very well as well. Boros aggro still doing well. Izzet control, Gruul Werewolf, Selesnya midrange, and that dimmer control. So when we go down and look at what's going on in terms of play, Izzet Dragons certainly big. And I covered that here a little bit earlier this week. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But here's what we have going on in terms of totality. Again, also within the meta, we see that huge jump there in Izzet Dragons versus previously. Again, some of the other things happening in this meta. Now, if we get to the more, again, competitive scene here, when we get to Platinum, let's take a look and see if some things shifted. We did see a little bit of shift. Izzet Dragons still being very popular, mono green Stompy still being very popular, a host of decks. We don't see Selesnya midrange or dimmer control playing as well in terms of the win rates. Now, again, aggro based is the game here when we get out of the gate. So that's the big piece here today. So that is our standard snapshot for us here in a nutshell. Next, we're going to move over blow things back out into our best of one, and we're going to take a look at historic here. So for historic, here's what we got going on. Again, out of the gate, we see a couple of jumps. We'll talk about that. But what we have, Jeskai Control, mono green elves, mono red aggro, trickery still around, a host of those decks, Izzet Phoenix, and mono red burn. Popularity again, mono green elves, Jeskai Control, Izzet Phoenix. Again, looking very similar to where we ended. But again, you can continue to see this win rates staying pretty steady Eddie, as we talked about before previously there as well. So again, this is the best of one take at an aggregate. Let's look at the competitive scene. We see a few things moving around. We got mono white humans being a bigger piece at the top end here. And again, it's a little bit more in terms of the meta, in terms of popularity. And there's the clip for you as well. So that's what we got going on, best of one. And when we talk about historic, now when we drive into best of three and dive into it, mono white humans being the top played deck. We got Selesnya Company, John Food, Gruul Aggro, Mono Red Madness, Izzet Phoenix, Azor's Control, Jeskai Control in terms of win rate. So Jeskai Control not doing real well, even though it's one of the top played decks. Now, again, generally out of the gate, that's kind of what we find. But what's interesting here is when we look at Jeskai Control, its win rate here has been going down in terms of a steady eddy. Not the curve that we want to see if you're playing Jeskai Control. So a couple things to keep in mind there at an aggregate level. Let's go ahead and look at the competitive scene again as we blow things out. We have Selesnya Enchantress at the top there, a new one. Abzan Humans as well. Again, the competitive scene, Jeskai Control just not holding its own. And then again, you can see the corresponding archetypes and amount played. So again, big shift down as things kind of try and level out here at the beginning, begins to have that aggro touch in terms of the out of the gate as always. So my friends, that is historic. Next, let's go into our friend historic Brawl. So new out of the gate here, here's what we got going on. We got Winata at the top, Kinnan, Synthis, the first sliver, and Yarok, or Yark. So lots of interesting things here when we look at that popularity today, again, encompassing those. I love to show you this as an audience. It's one of the things that I like doing. So you can see some of these other fun stats that we have going on. With that, we did conclude our own multiverse Mythras tournament in the Brawl space here this week as well. So I want to thank all those participants, particularly Alex Mixel for taking it down as well, and everyone else in the Discord server. So congrats, Alex, and looking forward to covering your deck here as well in the channel. All right, so that is what we have going on. Fast Furious today. I wanted to get you the information in terms of what's going on. Let's talk about some of these impacts here. So with that, what we have going on in terms of some of the biggest pieces this past week, clearly frame advantage is a big one. 167 participants. Equally so, I covered one of those decks. We'll talk about this here when we leave. But a host of things going on in terms of what's happening. Izzet Epiphany being a very, very popular deck. Certainly lots of discussion here on it in the channel this week. Here's what we got going on in terms of archetype. I should go number of decks. Here we go. Izzet Dragons being very popular, not the highest win, but definitely taking things down. Mono green aggro still doing well. Izzet Epiphany doing well again, as we talked about Gruul aggro and those things. So you really can see kind of what's going on here in terms of the meta being reflected and covered a little bit with what we have going on here from the statistics. Again, other quick piece, just want to thank Alex Mixel for taking things down. The other ones, I did not do as good of a job this month. It was fast, furious, quick, too much going on in the personal life for us here, but stay tuned because I think we plan on doing a historic Brawl. So for those of you that enjoy doing that on a monthly basis, stay tuned because we're certainly going to do a lot more in terms of monthly tournaments for you with prizes and all that fun stuff. So stay connected on the Discord server as well. With that, what I do want to do is talk about one more thing here in standard best of three. Again, in terms of decks that I was able to knock out this week. Is Izzet Dragons. Is it? So with that, here's what we got going on in terms of the deck type. You can check it out. I got the information down below. You can also take a look at the at the video. We had some cool stuff going on with the Ashmouth Dragon. I love it. Some different changes you can make in terms of the best of one deck. In terms of matchups, here's what we got going on. What is it bad against? Not as good against Stompy, not as good against Cruel Aggro, Werewolves, Mono White, but a lot of other things it does very well against in terms of the meta. So that is the snapshot for you. With that, Planeswalkers, that is what we have this week. We broke down Fast and Furious, and as we do in terms of our meta-analysis, a little bit quicker, but I wanted to get you hot off the press because I know it's important to you. In terms of standard best of one, best of three, we broke down historic best of one, best of three. We went into historic Brawl. We covered some of the key pieces of the meta. We talked about the tournament that we had, so thank you again. Looking forward to having more of those in the future. And then on top of that, we did look at a key deck here with Izzet Dragons. So Planeswalkers, with that, appreciate it. As always, flip me a like if you enjoyed today's video. If you got questions, comments, feedback, let me know down below. Hop on that Discord server. You know where to find me always. With that, Planeswalkers, great ways to stay in touch and up to date on all things in the channel and stay connected, and great ways to support. So appreciate that as always. We'll see you again soon for a lot more decks coming your way. Top deck standards, the historic. Also, we'll get into some jank, and I'm going to get back to live stream, I promise. There's a lot of things going on. And looking forward to bringing you all things Magic the Gathering Arena. So stay tuned. Take care. We'll see you again next week on this episode. And take care, my friends. All right, Mythras out.